Making this one was hard enough. I don't know how you make a sequel. You know, it's the tough part is you don't want to recreate the same shoe, but you also don't want to do something so far the other direction that it kind of loses its soul and, you know, the reasons why people like this one in the first place. I just remember how easy this actually was to design. Dreaming of the silhouette for probably most of my life, had the idea of what I wanted to do. So, you know, when it was time to evolve, it's kind of like, how do you top this? I was just kind of like, everyone loves this one so much. It's like, what if they don't like the second one? And I don't want to force it. You know, I don't want to make it a totally different shoe that like everyone that loves this shoe then looks at the new one and is like, what, you know, sophomore slump. You know, what are you doing? What are you thinking? So when you design a shoe, you start from the bottom first, and the sole is obviously the hardest. Once you get the foundation laid down, then you can build the house. I decided this time to really invest in creating my own tooling. The Vibram soles were great, but it wasn't mine. You know, to actually have, you know, the tread, have my signature was very big because, you know, I was an artist first. Whenever I would do a painting or a drawing, I would always write my tag or my signature at the bottom. So I kind of feel like this is my newest artwork, and, you know, I want to make sure that my signature was at the bottom. And so anytime you walk, you know, you got my soul, my sign. You know, when you go into the tooling, I like the shape of the original. I wanted to keep some of the flows and some of the lines. This little wave here, if you can really tell, it's actually an M. M is for Mache. I guess there's a lot of me in this shoe. Use the same EVA foam, same soft ride, it's very lightweight. That was important. I didn't want to deviate so far from the original that, again, you know, I lost the things that people loved about it. People love the comfort, so I wanted to make sure we maintain that. This took months and months and months of refining and changing the tread patterns to wear properly, and it was a very long process. I was very impatient. I was excited to get the shoe out, but you know, we had to do it right. So once the tooling was settled, then it was time to build the upper, and I got to say I drew dozens and dozens of uppers changes. You know, feeling like I was almost there, but it wasn't right yet. And you know, it's one thing to see it 2D in a piece of paper, but to actually see pullovers and, you know, see how it sits, that's when you gotta make changes. And you know, that's the tedious part, because you're this close, like, oh, it's almost perfect, but we gotta move it this a millimeter, shave this part off, add, you know, move the stitches over a little bit, like just really small things that I think most people wouldn't notice, but I do, because again, I put a lot of pressure on myself after the first one to make sure that this one was right. And I took a lot of the things that people said, whether it was good or bad about the Mache V1, you know, whether it was the comfort, whether it was the shape, whether it was the wear, how the lace stay would bow up if you tied it too tight. I wanted to make sure I, you know, locked that down. The forefoot was a little too tight because the U-throat, you know, ran across the foot too much, and I wanted to eliminate that part, but also still keep a short toe box so it didn't look massive on a size 12 or 13 foot. And then just keeping some of the things that carry over from the V1, whether it's the X stitching, the zigzag stitch across the medial and lateral sides, the 3M underlay accents, and then add some different things, you know, and some different lines to differentiate the first and the second one, because again, you don't want to make a carbon copy and just move it over an inch and say it's a totally new design. So this is the final product, the Mache Runner V2. So when we went with a colorway, I've designed probably 10 different colorways already, and they're all really solid. But you know, with a debut of a new silhouette, you don't want to go safe. You know, if people remember the Centralia, it was a bright shoe. It was, you know, kind of kicking people in the teeth. Like you either liked it or you didn't. And I kind of felt like what colorway best to introduce this shoe would be a what the colorway. Now, a what the colorway usually in sneaker terms is kind of like the outro or like the wrap up of a silhouette. You know, you go about a Kobe, you go what the Kobe, all the colorways of the Kobe wrapped into one, and then, you know, you move on to the next silhouette. So with the what the on this one, what I use as an intro, kind of to close the chapter on the V1. I use different colors and patterns and stories from last year on the V1. So there's the last 12 colorways, because we did a what the on the V1 last year to tell the story and kind of wrap up my 20 years of custom designing. But now we're using the what the theme as something, again, to kind of put a bookend on the story and kind of ease us into the new chapter on the V2. So that's why we went with the what the. Stories from Seattle, we have off-road, we have Northern Lights, obviously have the Freddy, got the green and orange for Miami, we have the ripstop from Veterans Day, the yellow from the maize, the corn, also on the tongue. We got the gray perforated toe box from La Paire, the dad shoe. Took the red from the intermission. The white is for a blank canvas. Got the pinstripe on the back of the tongue representing the White Sox collaboration that we did back in July. Oh, purple was from Northern Lights. The purple liner was from the Northern Lights. And we used the tan midsole to represent the Jedi. I know usually you think of neon green or black or bright, whatever, but we actually used the tan for this. And we did a speckled midsole just to break it up. You know, on the bottom, got the violet Mache signature, and that's also in the Northern Lights purple, but it's also because I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan. But oh yeah, and then the black leathers for the Panda. I had to remember. There's been so many things. It's wild. And then the denim is actually from the from the last time. You can't just skip over that shoe. But I also didn't want to rehash the shoe from last time and do the gouache and do all the different things because we've already done that. So I wanted to give it a fresh take and a little fresh coat of paint, as I like to say. One of the biggest feedbacks about the Mache V1 is we didn't go up to a size 15. So when I got to make my own tooling, I heard you. We're going up to size 15. So all you big footers can finally wear these with comfort. I know a lot of guys were buying the 14 and taking the insole out. That's one of those old school tricks, but no need for that. Unless you're a size 16, then you can buy the 15 and take the insole out. But the debut colorway of the Mache Runner V2, the What The, will be available for pre-order exclusively at machecustoms.com starting June 23rd, Friday, 11 a.m. Pre-order will be open for 72 hours once it closes. No more, no mas, never coming back. Available sizes 6 to 15. If this is just the intro, wait until you see the whole album. Where are we going to next?